Welcome to Simply Local. I'm Pam Outen, Family and Consumer Science Agent with Cooperative Extension.
And I'm David Goforth, Horticulture Agent. Today we're talking about collards, one of our most nutritious vegetables for the winter. And Pam, it looks like you grew a better one than I did this time around.
David, I can't take any credit for these beautiful collards. These were grown by Sheila Green, one of the wonderful vendors at the Piedmont Farmers Market.
Well, I grew these here, and I was very pleased just to have something in my garden that I could eat if I wanted to. These have stood through 0-degree temperature out there, and also about 8 inches of snow and ice.
Wow.
So it is the kind of plant that's very tough. I planted this last October, and I ate very regular off of them all the way up until about the 1st of January. And then I could, again, like I say, I could cook these here. They're very tasty. They don't look too swift, but they're very tasty.
Well, David, they really do look nice, I think, and you could always avoid the brown ends at the end of the stems and leaves.
So what's our first dish today?
Well, first of all, I do want to spend just a half a second. You knew I wanted to do this, talking about prepping your collard greens. Before we ever start cooking, it is so important that we just really emphasize, if you buy these fresh collard greens, they need to be washed. They've been in the ground growing, and mud and all kinds of things have come up on them naturally. So you can either wash the whole bunch at one time, or you can wash leaf by one time by swishing them in warm water or tepid water. And we want to wash them at least 2 to 3 times so the sand and the dirt particles are off. Is that how you would wash yours?
Well, Pam, you could throw them into a pressure washer and the dirt will fall to the bottom, the insects will float to the top, and you'd be fine.
Oh no, David, that's not how we wash collard greens.
Let me add that we do watch for, particularly in home gardeners like mine, have not been sprayed with pesticides, and I would look for insects on the back. And trust me, I do wash them off before I get them in the pot, Pam.
Well, that's good. You can rest assured the collard greens that I'm using have been well washed, and I'll hand those back to you today. You know, when we think about collard greens, David, I bet you enjoyed collard greens and black-eyed peas every New Year's.
I do. I'm more likely to eat that than I'm likely to eat turkey at Thanksgiving.
Really?
Yeah, I'll sometimes eat pig or I'll sometimes eat deer, but I'll always eat those collards come New Year's Day.
Well, you know, you're eating collard greens for a reason. These collard greens, I have found, kind of symbolize cash, and those black-eyed peas symbolize coins. So you're getting a wealthy meal when you eat the collard greens and black-eyed peas. Or my mother used to say it's for good luck that we'd eat collard greens and black-eyed peas. But I have a secret. I never ate collard greens and black-eyed peas when I was growing up. I hadn't developed a taste. So today we're going to show just a couple quick and easy ways to present collard greens or to prepare collard greens. And David, you know, I said quick and easy. That's my name, quick and easy, but yet nutritious. I've got 2 pans that will be going, but we're going to start with this pan first of all. And this is about as simple as you can get. We're going to use about a pound of trimmed collard greens. And one thing you want to do before you put them in the pan, you want to make sure those tough, not these tough stems, but the tough stems, and I bet you can show one.
Yeah, you're going to do like this. You take out to that point right about there. And I take off this edge right here, being it's been a little bit frost burnt, and that's what I would cut up right there. Sometimes use a scissors to...
I was going to say that. I use scissors, or you can chop them. But at any rate, I have about a pound here of fresh collard greens that have been trimmed fairly small. Now, I'm going to add, this is so easy, about 1 1/4 cup of low sodium chicken broth. Low sodium chicken broth, about 1 1/4 cup. And then my pan is a little bit hot already, but I'm going to turn it up just a little bit higher. And we're going to add the collard greens. Now, when you watch me adding these collard greens, I bet some people are thinking, what are you doing? They're not going to they're not going to cook with that many collard greens in the pan. But you know what? They are going to cook. We're going to saute them, and it's kind of a work in progress. We will continually or fairly regularly stir the collard greens. And once we have the collard greens kind of covered with the chicken broth, we'll be ready to add 2 tablespoons of a seasoning. And we're just going to use a garlic and herb seasoning that has no salt in it. And I'm going to sprinkle it around real quickly there. And we'll add a second tablespoon. Now this has a combination of different spices in here, and it makes it kind of easy to simmer and saute this way. So now we're ready to mix these up a little bit. Now I know the traditional way of preparing collard greens was using what?
Bacon grease.
Bacon grease or fat back or even meat parts. But did you notice there's not one bit of meat in here, and there's also not one bit of fat? We are going to prepare these collard greens in the healthiest way we possibly can. Now, go ahead. I'm just going to say I'm going to put the lid on for just a second as they continue to saute. My stove is on about a medium temperature.
The nutrition is a really important thing on collards, and that's one reason I eat them. I can do them a few different ways. I sometimes just boil them, sometimes saute them like this. I have eaten collards fresh as a salad, and also in soups. There's a lot of ways you can do collards, but the reason that I feel like the nutrition of them, they've got the calcium, they've got the minerals like the magnesium, the calcium, some critical minerals that you need. They've got a lot of the B vitamins, which we find during the winter months, the pantothenic acid and some of those. So I really think they're one of the more nutritional type of vegetables that are out there, quite honestly.
Well, if I could add just a little bit to that, David, you are right on the money about the nutritional value of collards. But collards, just like the other winter greens, which are spinach, leafy greens would be spinach and kale, and collards and maybe dandelion, would you say, or mustard greens.
Mustard greens.
Mustard greens. I'm sorry, not dandelion greens, mustard greens. Anyway, these greens are so nutritious, as you mentioned. I think the thing that I really want to point out is that these greens, these leafy green vegetables, have more nutrients per calorie of any other vegetable. This is such a powerhouse of nutrition, and as you watch, the collards are starting to, the only word I know to use is shrink. Can you think of a better word, David?
Well, it's to wilt down, yeah.
Wilt down might be a better word. Wilt down or steam or saute, but they're definitely getting smaller.
Now, the other nutritional thing that you haven't mentioned.
I'm not finished.
Okay, good.
I'm not finished. I haven't even gotten warmed up on the nutritional value of these collards. Well, first of all, collards are a powerhouse of vitamin A. Is that what you were going to mention?
No.
Okay, let me keep going then. Vitamin A. Why do we need vitamin A? Vitamin A is a wonderful, wonderful nutrient for our eyes and our skin. And you know, you talk to a lot of older adults and they say, the doctors have told me to eat more greens, more spinach, more collards for my eyes. I'm getting macular degeneration, and the greens are a wonderful food to be eating. Vitamin A, packed with vitamin A. Also, were you going to mention vitamin C?
Not yet.
Were you going to mention that one?
No, you keep going.
Are we talking about the same food?
Yes.
Okay. Vitamin C. Collard greens, as well as the other green leafy vegetables, are packed with vitamin C. Why do we need vitamin C?
We need it every day.
We need it every day, that's exactly right, but it helps heal wounds and helps really heal your wounds and helps clear up infections or helps avoid infections. Probably the most important item, that we don't get it in quite the quantity, is folate. Were you going to mention folate?
Folate, isn't that one of the B vitamins?
It is a B vitamin, you're exactly right, but I want to zero in on folate because expectant moms very much need folate. Folate will help the baby develop and help with cell division. So this is one of the healthiest possible vegetables that you can eat, and probably one of the most inexpensive vegetables. Now, David, I've been talking too much. What did you want to add about? Want to add about the collard greens?
The other thing is they will have sulfur compounds in there that will help fight cancer. found. So like any of the cabbage family, this is a member of the cabbage family, and any of the cabbage family will help with fighting cancer.
The cruciferous, I think the
Cruciferous, that's
I can't
cabbage
say
family.
that.
Easier to say cabbage family.
Cruciferous vegetables, broccoli, cabbage, collards, and spinach. Boy, they are a powerhouse of nutrition. There's no doubt about this. And I promise you, David, when you sample this, I think you're really going to like it.
I think I will too.
Let me take another. I'm going to keep stirring. It has really wilted. It's almost gotten what, half smaller, I guess you could say. And the liquid that's in the bottom of the skillet, we don't want to throw that away. Some people actually call that, you know what it's called?
Pot liquor.
Yes, I'm impressed. Pot liquor. Pot liquor because it could go into soups and stews, and this is where our nutrients are. Let's close this up for just a second and let it saute or steam a little bit more, and then I think we're about ready to serve this, David. We'll go ahead and serve it. Doesn't that look delicious? All right. And if you will, please hand me one of the spoons. Great. And we will be ready to serve the collard greens, the simple sauteed collard greens. Just a little low fat or low sodium chicken broth and some garlic herb seasoning. I think they're beautiful, and you know what? I enjoy them. I love them. So if I like them, I think other people will too. Now, some people like to add just a little bit of vinegar to their collards. I don't particularly like to do that, but some people do, to add a little bit more flavor.
I reckon it's the way you were raised. My wife will do that and I won't. So.
Okay. Well, David, we had fun showing one recipe, just simply sauteing collards with some low sodium chicken broth. I have another easy recipe for you.
But now, Pam, let me ask you, don't you think it's a little cheating to dump it out of here?
No, I don't, because you know, in our local grocery stores, we can now find bagged collard greens. And this is a relatively new thing. We haven't always been able to find bagged collard greens. And if you look at the back, these came from our neighboring state in South Carolina. And they have been triple washed, and also they have been broken up. But you know, it does take some time to use these, David, because those collard greens have a tendency to have some really big stems in there, and you have to go through and get those stems out. So I have to let you know that. You think it's cheating to use those?
Not really, because it is within 100 miles of here, so.
It's within 100 miles, and also I think we have to think about the man or woman that's cooking at home and maybe is in a real big rush and needs some collard greens really, really quick. Well, today we're going to do greens and tomatoes, and it's going to be, give or take 2 pounds of collard greens, and we're going to use 2 cups of chopped diced tomatoes, and I've already separated, so to speak, the tomatoes. The tomatoes have been drained, so we have the tomatoes on top and then just the juice on the bottom. This is going to be a little bit different. We're going to start with the collard greens that are kind of wet. This is a little bit unusual, and we may not get all these collard greens in this little container. Now we've got our collard greens in, and we're ready to add 2 tablespoons of just some Italian seasoning. And that smells so good with Italian seasoning. We already have 1 tablespoon in. We'll add our 2nd tablespoon. Add a little bit more there. 2nd tablespoon of Italian seasoning. And we're going to put this over kind of a medium-low heat, and we're stirring this continually. I'm looking forward to these collard greens wilting a little bit, because we always start with a little bit fuller pan than we really need. Okay, as we've gotten those going, we're ready to add some of our drained tomatoes. And this is going to be a beautiful dish, I promise you. It's going to make you think of Christmas. That's one of the reasons I really loved it. And we may not add all these tomatoes. If your pan is a little bit bigger, you certainly can. And I will continue stirring fairly regularly. Can you smell the spices?
I can. That's neat.
Can you also see the collards are starting to wilt a little bit?
I've never used tomatoes in collards. Now I've done onions at times, and I have done carrots with collards. I think
you've done carrots.
Yeah, the carrots will make a good color combination also, but I like the color on this one.
Well, I think the tomatoes are, in fact, David, you probably have your own tomatoes that you have preserved at home that you could add to these.
Yeah,
Knowing
canned tomatoes.
if you have canned tomatoes, yes. Well, we're going to let this saute for just a few seconds longer, and they are beginning to wilt, aren't they? Now, we're going to add just some of our drained liquid tomato juice to give it a little bit more flavor and also a little bit more liquid in our pan. And our heat is on medium. Really, I'm going to turn it up just a little bit, I believe. Those collards are starting to wilt. You know, I talked about that sometimes you miss a thick stem, and I just found one of those thick stems. So while we're cooking, I'm just going to use my fingers and remove that stem. Okay, we're just going to let it simmer a few more seconds here, or simmer and saute. You know, David, we see what fun we're having with the collard greens, but how much is a serving of collard greens? How much does someone need to think about if they're going to eat collard greens?
Normally, for vegetables like that, you're talking half a cup.
A half a cup, and because these have a tendency to get kind of packed down, might want to allow a few more leafy greens, maybe even as much as 8 ounces, because they are getting packed down.
I was talking about after cooking.
After cooking,
yeah,
okay.
Half a cup after cooking is considered a serving.
Half a cup after cooking, but we want to start out with many more collards.
As long as they're as good as that, Pam, you're not going to overdo them.
What do you mean overdo them?
If you eat 2 servings or 3 servings, you're still okay because you don't have fat there and you don't have anything to really worry about in there. I mean, that's the good stuff.
You're exactly right. And you know what? We found at our house that these collards, if we can't eat them all the first night, we found that it works just fine to cover them, put them in the refrigerator, and then heat them up the next night, and you have a vegetable ready to enjoy at home. And you know, if you have a lot of collards, and some people do, did you know you could freeze collards?
Oh yeah.
You can freeze collards by going through the process of removing those stems, looking for bugs, and you blanch them in hot water for about 3 minutes, and then you'll dip them in the ice water for the same amount of time, and you're able to pack them in a freezer bag. I don't think any of us have too many collard greens. We eat them as we go, but it is good to know that you can always freeze those collard greens.
In fact, if that's what you wanted collards on into the summer, you would need to do that now because it won't be long before even my collards start stretching out. And that second year, they're trying to go to seed, and it doesn't take them very long before they start getting a little bit bitter the second year like this. So eat them during the fall of the year, on into the winter, and then if you want to, freeze them going on into for the next summer. Well,
now, David, how late? The collards will be available somewhat into the spring. Early spring?
Well, people can plant. I'm sure some farmers will plant collards again for a spring crop. I think they work a little bit better for a fall crop, and the reason is because as you go into cold weather, they will convert some of their starch to sugar to try to keep from freezing. And as they're converting the starch to sugar, that makes it sweeter. And so a lot of times in the fall of the year, we won't eat collards until they've had a frost on them.
I see, and I remember that too. You know, we've had a lot of fun with cooking collards in some of our different classes. I think this is going to be a vegetable that will be a treat for maybe some of the folks that have moved into Cabarrus County, don't you?
I don't think they eat it up north.
I don't think they do either. I don't think they do either. So we hope our maybe newcomers will enjoy a batch of collards at their house. I think that we're just about ready to serve this, and it's still, I think we're getting them they've wilted, and they're nice and heated, and when we serve them, I think we're going to be very pleased with how pretty they look. We want to make sure we get some tomatoes on here. Do they not smell good?
They smell great.
And reminds me of Christmas with these colors. Okay, I think we have a delicious serving of collards with tomatoes. And tomatoes are one of the popular vegetables to add with collards. You've already mentioned carrots and onions, but these are certainly one of the vegetables that we can add with collards. And of course, folks enjoy that vinegar with them also.
Isn't it fun to eat smart and eat local?
David, it is great fun to eat smart and eat local.